So I've got some big plans in 2025. Plans that are going to get the boxing fans absolutely sobbing wet. Honestly, they're going to be frothed up and salivating to see what's going to be transpiring. So stay tuned.
So that right there at the start of this video is David Haye talking about, well, I mean, I guess we can only surmise what he's talking about. Something that's going to have the boxing fans salivating. Right. A lot of people are saying that this is David Haye hinting at a comeback. Boy, I hope that is not true. I really, listen, right? We've heard, and this is what has me worried, that maybe this is what he means. We heard in the last week that Vladimir Klitschko is seriously considering a comeback. He wants to try and break George Foreman's record. David Haye, when was he born? Was David Haye born in 1980? It was 1980. So I'm not sure the exact month he was born in. So let's just say, look, it's only February. So at some point this year, he'll be 45 years old. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? That both these guys maybe, potentially, are planning a comeback, fight one another, have a rematch from their horrendous fight. It really was a horrible fight in 2011, and potentially the winner goes on to fight for the title. Seriously, that could be what he's alluding to. I'm also thinking that, and this is the lesser of two evils, by the way, that he could be hinting that maybe he's going to be fighting in Misfits. I'm not sure necessarily that will have the boxing fans salivating, but I mean, you know, at this point in David Haye's career, could he be up some dweeb from YouTube? Yeah, probably. Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, have you seen some of those guys on those Misfit shows? If he's talking about coming back to actual pro boxing, people, that is going to end. That's going to end in absolute disaster. With Klitschko, I think it'll end in disaster if he comes back. If he's serious, he's nearly 50. I think it'll end in disaster. But at least with Vladimir Klitschko really did leave on a high. He went in there against Anthony Joshua in a world title heavyweight unification. He dropped Anthony Joshua. He played it cautious. He was ahead. He was, for my money, never mind what the scorecards say. Never mind what those scorecards were saying at the time of the stoppage. For my money, Klitschko well ahead. Like, I mean well ahead in that fight. Never mind what the scorecards were saying. I think two of them had Joshua ahead. Nonsense. Go and look at the fight. Klitschko well ahead. Outboxing Anthony Joshua. Yeah, he was down himself, but he came back well and dropped Anthony Joshua. And was on course to win the fight, at least on points, in my opinion, before he ended up getting taken out in round 11. That's how Klitschko went out, right? And Klitschko was, 40 years old at the time? Over 40, thereabouts. But he was, he certainly was past his best at that time. How did David Haye go out? Well, David Haye went out getting stopped in 3 rounds by Tony Bellew. And the fight before that, he got stopped in, I think it was 11 rounds by Tony Bellew, where he was, what did he, rupture his Achilles? He definitely did something down. And yeah, David Haye, it's quite remarkable really, because we look at the heavyweight division now, and we look at the likes of Tyson Fury, Alexander Usyk, Zhilei Zhang, Martin Bakole, Joseph Parker. I'm mentioning a lot of the top guys. What do they all have in common? They're either 30 years old or way over it. In Zhilei Zhang's case, he's 41 years old. So we're talking about top heavyweights, well into their mid-30s, some of them even in their 40s. People, David Haye was done at the age of 32. When he fought Chisora in Upton Park, which is now gone, he was 32 years old. And that was it after that point. Good performance by David Haye. He stopped Derek Chisora, and he stopped him brutally in 5 rounds. I know Dylan White stopped Derek Chisora, but that was the first time Derek Chisora had ever really been taken out like that. Credit to David Haye. Tremendous puncher was David Haye. I loved... Listen, David Haye was somewhat of a precursor to Tyson Fury, in a sense of he was a very dishonest fighter. He used to gaslight the fans. He used to say fans wanted to see this when no one really did. But I used to love watching David Haye because he was, for the most part, very exciting. Very, very exciting. When he was at cruiserweight, he took on all comers. He was a tremendous cruiserweight. At heavyweight, he was a lot more selective. But I used to really like watching David Haye. He was one of my favourite fighters, certainly when he was having his run with the WBA title at heavyweight and even then after. But when he came back in 2016, Well, really, when he fought Chisora, I mean, we didn't know it at the time that he was done, because he was meant to fight. Was he meant to fight Manuel Char? When he pulled out of that fight to take the Fury fight, rescheduled the fight twice before retiring in 2013, and then coming back January 2016. Then when he came back against Mark Demori, bear in mind he had had, I think, surgery on his shoulder. He had had a host of injuries, right? So when he came back against Mark Demori, we didn't really know what to expect. His whole style, his whole stance more so was different. His stance was really, if you go back and look at the Mark Demori fight, as limited as Demori was, he looked really weird. It just, look at his stance in that Demori fight. I'm sure it's still on YouTube. It was on Dave of all places. That's where they actually had the fight on. He just looked weird. His stance in that fight. Yeah, he took Demori out and around. He's always been a good puncher. And the same when he fought that Arnold G. He was even worse. I know he went longer, but he was, I mean, Jesus Christ, he was, I don't know how he found these guys, but he was even worse. And again, you could see, look, the punching power was there, but he just didn't look right. And then against Tony Bellew, you know, early on, Bellew was very cautious. But once David Haye, you know, suffered that injury, I mean, it became apparent that his body was breaking down. Do you remember? Because they fought in 2017. Do you remember? They fought in March of 2017. Actually, it was on the same day Keith Thurman fought Danny Garcia in the unification at welterweight. And they were meant to fight in December of that same year, 2017. It was actually going to be on a Sunday in the O2. It was going to be just before Christmas. And I actually think it was going to be on the same day. Well, not the same day, but technically in the UK it would have been the same day. But it would have been Billy Joe fighting David Lemieux on the Saturday/Sunday morning, and then David Haye, Tony Bellew that evening in the O2. David Haye, was he on a stair machine or something, and he injured his bicep? God knows how you do that on a stair, but hey, he did. But it was apparent that his body was pretty much falling to pieces, that he couldn't physically get through a full camp. And 2017 was 8 years ago, and obviously when he fought Bellew in the rematch, it was 2018. But nevertheless, people, you're talking the best part of a decade. David Haye was absolutely shot to bits 7-8 years ago. I mean, like, do we really? Please, I don't know what he's hinting at, but if he is hinting at a return, just please, no on that one. No on that one. Look, David Haye was tremendous. I loved watching David Haye. You know, I kind of wish I was doing videos at the time when David Haye was in his prime, because it would have been fun to talk about. It would have been fun to do videos and talk about what was going on at the time. I wasn't doing videos when David Haye had his comeback fights either. That would have been fun as well to talk about and go in on David Haye, because he would have deserved it. But, you know, you're talking now where we're looking at we're looking at the generation after David Haye of heavyweights that are coming to the end. You know, David Haye was Klitschko era. And he's talking about coming back. Well, potentially. Not people. Again, it's not like this is a fighter in David Haye who at 45 you could say, well, he's coming back. Yeah, he was a Klitschko era fighter, but he took no damage. He lived the life well. You know, I'm sure he's got less miles on the clock than this guy or this guy or this guy. That's not the case. This is a guy who 7-8 years ago, his body was falling apart. Couldn't get through a full training camp. People, I've never heard of a fighter, or anyone for that matter, get older and all of a sudden everything is better. It's not going to be the case. So I'm assuming it's one of two things. Either coming back, potentially they're looking to set up a Klitschko rematch, potentially, I'm just speculating here. No proof, don't know, just speculating. Or he's going to try Misfits. Now, if it's Misfits, go for it. I mean, a shot to bits David Haye would still, probably with one hand, beat most of the guys in Misfits. But I'm hoping that's what it is. God forbid it could be Tommy Fury. Do you know, it's pretty... It's a damn indictment on Tommy Fury that I would look at Tommy Fury and say, a David Haye is shot to bits as he is, I'd still probably pick him over Tommy Fury. Seriously. So let's wait and see what this is with David Haye. Potential comeback for David Haye. I'm not sure I'm really keen on that. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Nevertheless, I hope you enjoyed the video. Smash the like button if you could. Hit subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. And until next time, people, peace.